Good evening, everyone. I think we're going to go ahead and get started with a little presentation, and then we'll take feedback and comments from everybody. Looks like this is another person. All right, good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here and spending some time this evening with us to talk about the Old Village Hall project. My name is Jeremy Shelton. I'm an architect with Decker. I've been at Decker for now 21 years. We are a local architecture firm here in Albuquerque. With me, I got two folks with me from my office. I'll let them introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Caitlin Curl. I am an intern architect with Decker, and I've been with the firm a little over a year now.
Hi, I'm Chris Anacroce. I'm a design associate, and I've been at Decker for 8 years.
They all start to run together at a certain point. So we're here to talk about Old Village Hall. I'll give you a little bit of background, but mostly what we want to accomplish tonight is to get feedback from you all on what you want this project to be. We were contracted, we have an on-call contract to provide design services with the village. We were contacted probably 2 years ago by the previous village administrator, to talk about Old Village Hall. And the existing barracks building was in pretty rough shape, and they wanted us to look at what it would take to replace it. They also wanted to talk a little bit about how we could add some amenities to support the outdoor sports courts. So what we were asked to do was to come up with an idea of how we could replace the existing barracks building with a new multi-purpose kind of meeting space, maintain some storage, because at the time, and maybe it still is occurring, that the Boy Scouts used that space and they used it for storage as well. But also that meeting space was important because neighborhood meetings would occur there. I know historically, like these kinds of meetings would have occurred there many years ago. But they also wanted to add things like restroom facilities and locker facilities to support the basketball and now the pickleball courts. So we came up with a little plan and a quick little concept, and that's all it was. It was a first kind of blush at what could this building be. We were asked to look at the surrounding context, but not be limited by that, and it could be a modern interpretation. Now that was what we were directed to do 2 years ago. At this point, the village is ready to move forward with the project, but that doesn't mean we're starting here. We can start with something else if that's ultimately what the community wants. It feels like is necessary here. So the directives we were given then are not necessarily the directives we'll have going forward. What we would really like to hear from you all is, what are your reactions to demolishing the existing building and replacing it with something new? What are your reactions to adding basketball courts or adding bathrooms? Is there the right amount of sports courts, or should we have more? Should we have less sports courts so that we can have more building space? Those are some of the comments that we're looking for and feedback we want to hear from you all. The ideas that we're showing here about the architecture, we want to hear comments about that as well. What do you want this building to look and feel like? Is it too modern? We're hearing that already in the discussion we've seen. Is it too modern? Is it too symmetrical? Is it too brown? What do you want it to be? Because ultimately, this is your building, it's not our building. So we want to hear from you all, and we want to get your feedback as to what you think this project could be, and ultimately, how we can help support that. So with that, happy to start taking questions. And we have a microphone, I guess we're supposed to use, so that the folks online can hear everybody. And we do have sticky notes and pens and whatnot, so if you don't want to speak up, but you want to write it down and stick it on the board, we'll collect all of that. Our business cards are here as well, so if you go away tonight and you think of something at 2 in the morning, you want to shoot us an email with an idea, please do so.
Is the space that's currently shown as enclosed the existing space? Is that the same footprint?
They are not quite the same footprint. We added, what we're shown here is, so here's the existing building. That's the footprint there. That's the footprint there. And ultimately what we did is we added a piece here. So that footprint is very similar, and then we added this leg down to the south to incorporate, that's where we added the bathrooms and the locker room.
So it seems like a lot, the community room, and then you have the pickleball courts, but yet there's not that much parking. So let's say you have people playing pickleball. There is a basketball court over here at these tennis courts. So to me, since pickleball is so popular, it seems like this would be better to make just pickleball courts. Make it a pickleball court place. Instead of maybe trying to make it also into a community room, because let's say somebody does have a meeting. Okay, well then you got, let's see, 1, 2, I don't know how many people playing pickleball, and they're full all the time. There's not enough parking to sustain that. Let's say we wanted to have a little meeting there. Well, then it's going back to the same old story, parking, right? But I like the idea of it being more of just one thing, a sports center. Pickleball, some bathrooms, you know. And I mean, I do think anything, if people are actually using this, has to be better, but I think this doesn't really look too much like Los Ranchos, this,
Yeah, we've heard that a lot.
design. This is very pretty, your interpretation of northern New Mexico, but maybe moving more towards that, maybe, So that's my thoughts on it. But the parking, because that cul-de-sac, I have friends who live in that cul-de-sac, and I mean, if it were me, I wouldn't want people parking in the cul-de-sac, so on and so forth.
Thank you.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but you said the community room would be 20 by 30? 20 by 30 feet.
Approximately.
So how many people would fit in that space?
Well, obviously, it's going to depend on how it's configured. So if it was to be configured similar to this, you'd have approximately the same number of people.
It'll be this size?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm thinking, for example, the Los Ranchos Historical Society is always looking for a place to meet, and we'd like to meet in Los Ranchos than somewhere else, but we wouldn't have any parking. We couldn't fit there. Is that community room going to be a smart room, or?
Ultimately, yes. The original direction was to include technology, so it can hold meetings very similar to this.
I think parking is the biggest problem, that it really wouldn't fulfill a need for a community room. I think what Cindy said about making it maybe a sports center or something, although I have heard people say that even when they're there for pickleball, we have a friend who has a Volkswagen, that the parking was so intense that she couldn't even get out of the parking lot. So if you're putting that there and a community room, it seems a little difficult. Also, I'd prefer, just myself, something like Pueblo Revival or something very Nuevo Mexico in the style.
Yeah, I think this room is bigger than 20 by 30.
This entire room is for sure. I'm saying this amount of seating is potential.
Okay, okay, just the seating. So like 50 people, maybe 40, 50, something
It's
like
good,
that.
yeah, something
Okay.
less than 50.
We do need a a meeting room, you know, for smaller meetings that's easily accessible to the public, you know, where the public doesn't have to spend a lot of money to pay somebody to, you know, to be there and maintain it and all of that sort of stuff. So I love the idea of a room we can meet in. And Cindy's idea about dispensing with the basketball court, you might consider, I mean, maybe you could reconfigure the pickleball courts to provide more parking. I see you've added some parking. So anyway, just some ideas. And earlier I mentioned maybe instead of the complete change to the silhouette, maybe preserving the existing roof line or something like that, would sort of provide more continuity at the site. That's all. Otherwise, having bathrooms is always a great thing.
Thank you. So we're definitely hearing more traditional on the architecture, fitting in more closely with the existing context of the neighborhood for sure, and parking. Back here.
I think we all should recognize this is an A1 zone within the Guadalupe Trail character area. It is not a commercial area. So that we may not be able to justify our desire for meeting rooms and all that kind of stuff and be consistent with the residential character of the folks who were living around it. And that is a big problem. So it hasn't been rezoned. It's not a special use project. It is an A1 zoned parcel. And so it's going to have to be treated much like a special use area. And it's going to have to make the residents who live around it feel like this is part of their community, not shoving something else on them. So more parking may be something that if I were living on that cul-de-sac, I would not want all that additional parking on the east side.
This side here.
That adds six spaces to the 11, or to give 17 total. So all I'm concerned about, this needs to be creating community within community, not adding a whole community addition to this thing. If we're going to keep it part of the Guadalupe Trail character area, which is a residential area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hank. That was kind of the venue I was thinking. A lot of the people that live on Green Valley have already expressed to me how much traffic they have and how fast that traffic is, because it's a pass-through from Rio Grande to Guadalupe Trail. And I don't see maybe one person here that is from Green Valley. It's like a freeway. Yes, it is. And I know several people over there that are not computer, Facebook, digital generation. So I think this is passing them by, the design, the development. And I echo what Hank said, that I don't think that they would want more traffic, more parking.
Thank you.
Hi, how you doing? Oh, you first? Okay.
No, it's on.
Oh, well, I just want to say what I like about that is the overhang. I mean, we just went through this hideous summer. So if you're playing pickleball, sit in the shade. I really like that part. And all the windows and the light. I mean, I just peeked in there today. What's there? It's pretty dungeon-like. So that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you. You know, a few things. I like the idea of making the sports center, whatever it is, because part of the dialogue that was happening last night at the Planning and Zoning Working Committee was, we have a lot of buildings, we've purchased a lot of things. I'd like to see a holistic plan that if we are going to add more tennis courts, or we're gonna do whatever, that we use what's already in place. I know I've held meetings at the library, and, you know, those have worked out pretty well. I think we have some places. I don't think this should be the be-all and end-all for everything we have. It's a small space. If I were living on that street, I'd be having a bit of heartburn for the traffic. And the last thing is that I hate metal buildings. So however you do that, if you could make it nicer, that would be good.
Thank you.
Yep, so I think I'm the only one that lives on the street that's here. It is an older community. A lot of the folks are older and probably don't do Facebook. One of the things I don't know if the village would consider is putting speed humps in like they have on Guadalupe. People regularly drive 50, 60 miles an hour down the street. The other is living next door. I'm actually remodeling the house next door. My parents passed away, but a lot of people use the basketball courts. I'm seeing a lot of kids in the neighborhood use that, and they come from like a block or two away. It's safer to go to that basketball court than go down Rio Grande. So, you know, maybe keeping that, and, you know, that might be a good idea. And I like the fact that you, at least since I live next door, you've kind of turned the corner here. That kind of at least protects, you know, at least my side of the property over there. And then we talked about maybe a fence, something like that. Yeah. But, you know, I used to play basketball there. It's a lot nicer looking now than it was when I was a kid.
Thank you.
So I love the idea of the pickleball and tennis courts, and I love the idea that Green Valley is a residential street. I'm thinking, what if we do something here to this space that we have? I don't know if we have a deal with the sheriff's department or what, but we have the parking here. We have bathrooms here. Can we not expand and do it in this building and have a meeting space there too?
So just so I understand, you're suggesting not having the meeting space at Old Village Hall, eliminating that piece of the scope, so that really is just a sports court area with some
and just
little amenities.
just a small one, you know, like a little park.
Yeah.
It could be a better park than a meeting space, in my opinion. And we have more infrastructure here to go on and to use, and the parking is here. So that's my idea.
I agree with that. It seems to be a better use if we can find somewhere else for the meeting space. And I say that because I do have children that live in the village, and one of them drives, but some of them don't. They have a lot of friends that live in the village, and they love riding their bikes and walking down the ditches to the pickleball courts. And so I think bathrooms and shade and bike parking would be fantastic. Yeah, I think, you know, we've talked about all of the things us grown-ups need, but we do still have children in the village, and we'd like for them to hang around here and stay out of trouble. And yeah, this is a great spot. Redoing the pickleball courts was fantastic.
Thank you.
Based on what I've heard, I want to withdraw my urging of the community meeting space, just because, you know, I've heard what everybody's saying about the neighborhood and all of that good stuff, and I think you're all right.
Yeah, and I'd like to withdraw. I think the Pueblo Revival style would be better for this neighborhood versus the Northern New Mexico style, because it is lower profile buildings over there. I have a question though, like, so, you know, if you did make that community space smaller, then maybe you could put in an extra pickleball court, still have the shade, but how are you gonna get into it? Like, is there gonna be somebody there all the time with keys to get to the locker rooms and the bathrooms? How's that gonna work?
I think ultimately it's a question for the village. I don't know, John, if you're prepared to talk about that at all. We have talked in our preliminary meetings prior, you know, prepping for this discussion, is yes, you would have to have some type of access control, some kind of technology where the doors would automatically lock and unlock, or you have to have village staff come around at times in the morning and in the evening to lock and unlock those doors. Ultimately, it's an operational question for the village.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I mean, I can't imagine somebody being hired to just stay there, you know? And yeah, Yeah, or even a volunteer. I can't imagine they'd probably be out on the pickle. So let's see, I had another question. Yeah, and so the pickleball courts, so at one point, somebody said you had to bring your own something to the pickleball courts. So yeah, providing some kind of better access to what is there is going to be necessary for people to be able to use it. And I mean, I don't know that locker rooms are necessary. I mean, that seems kind of a little bit waste of space. I know even when I go to gyms where I have a membership, hardly anybody's utilizing the locker rooms much. You could utilize that for something else. Snack bar if someone's going to be there.
Thank you.
So I want to go back to what you said. You were saying like a micro park with the pickleball courts and basketball and parking and leave it more of an open space like that.
Yeah, or even, Ross would be great. What also might be kind of fun, and it would keep someone there on the property, is if there was like a little bicycle repair shop or something where people, because if we're wanting to get people to bike there and walk there rather than driving, those might be the kind of resources that might be fun to introduce. Places where, and then maybe there is someone that is staffed that's kind of on site where you can check out, paddles or something. Yeah.
Around access, maybe some kind of a key card system where everybody sort of has an individual card so that when you're there and you go in, we know who has been in. And so then people are taking responsibility for the facility while they're there. I don't know if that's workable, but just an idea.
I think you mentioned locker rooms, maybe not needing them. Maybe that you could take the storage, put it in the community room and get rid of the locker room. I mean, over here, we don't have locker rooms, racquetball, tennis, all that. That may be a better use. Well, I like your idea better, I think.
Any other thoughts?
Boy Scouts what they would like to see in that village hall, because they're the ones that are utilizing it one day a week. And are you planning a kitchen? Any cooking facilities?
Currently, there's been no discussion of a kitchen. There is a little kind of coffee bar area that'll have a sink, so that if there is a meeting and the desire was to have coffee or drinks or something like that, there would be a place to stage that.
The question that I have, being a village resident for 64 years, that was one of our hangouts. That was there from every kind of meeting to Boy Scouts to drama to whatever. So I like the idea of the pickle courts. I like the idea of the basketball, walking through there all the time, even currently. There's a lot of children out there, but there's also a lot of adults for pickleball. So my question is, I like the overhang. I don't know if it's a pergola that maybe we change it to or something that does shade, but if we do change it to the pickle courts, the basketball court, maybe some bike racks, things, what would currently happen or occur with the little hall that's there? I'm guessing that maybe the Boy Scouts could still use it. It could probably still be kind of a informal meeting place. I agree we don't need locker rooms. I think extra bathrooms are great. I've seen many areas in big cities where maybe they have lockers, but they have lockers with the keys. That means you use it, you keep the key. That same key goes in. It's just like a mailbox. Those keys stay there, which means if you're going to use it, it's there and you close it. But I would really like to make sure that we don't lose the fact that the meeting area that is currently there sounds like it would stay there. And I think that it could serve not only for Boy Scouts, maybe we expand it a little bit further. And maybe it is a small meeting room, because in my view, the pickleball courts, when I'm walking through there or biking, whatever, I would say during the summer, 5, 6, 7, it's pretty quiet. I mean, there isn't anyone there. And my guess is maybe we set hours that say from 8 to 7 in the summer, 8 to dawn, whatever, in the winter for playing. And then also set a time for the meeting, because Boy Scouts are important that are going to be there. Girl Scouts could meet there. We used to do drama there for some of the elementary schools over there. So I think the meeting area is something we should probably still consider and not lose fact of that.
Thank you. Anybody else want to speak up? Well, we're happy to, oh, go ahead. Sure.
And this is probably just from being a resident for so long. We're so used to seeing this barracks, what it looks like, and it means something to all of us here in the village. In one way or another, all our kids grew up here. It would be nice if we could design it in some way that still represents what we see there as that barracks of sorts, maybe remodeling it to a point where it fits in with the residents that live around there, and that it actually becomes a part of that residential community, but maybe not lose what the importance is, how it is currently. Lots of windows I like. Thanks.
Thank you. It's in very poor shape. To renovate it would likely cost more than tearing it down and building new.
That's right.
Well, we are happy to hang out here longer if you want to stick around, come up, talk, look at the boards. We're happy to continue to answer questions. So, but thank you all for being here. Who wants to talk?
Because it gets to, again, part of the discussion we had last night. We are a business. At the end of the day, we're still a business. Some way or the other, if we use this, do we need to charge a small fee or membership? I don't know, but whatever it is, it's going to take some sort of cost to keep this going, one way or the other. What should that look like? What can it look like? Camera, whatever you're going to do, it's part of that operational cost. And we need to be realistic about that. That's why I said if you start looking at kitchens and stuff like that, then you have liability issues. Sorry, I'm a lawyer, that's what happens. But at the end of the day, it's that holistic planning for what exactly we want to do with it. And if we need to charge, what would that look like? You know, what would people be willing to do, $1 a day or whatever? But planning for how we get money back in to sustain what we're trying to build out.
Yes. That's awful. Agreed.
It's terrible.
Agreed.
I don't see how we can justify that.
So the next steps for us is to gather all this feedback, put it together into a document of what we heard, and report that back to the village. And from there, the village will make decisions as to how they want to proceed. I would assume so.
I hear what she's saying, and I'm a nostalgic person, so I get what you're saying. So I'm not, this is just a wondering. If the village decided that they didn't want to spend that much money to kind of build a whole new building, is there enough space to put more courts and still have kind of a bathroom and a shade structure, or could that?
Chris, I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit. I don't know what
Yeah, go here. Yeah, so. Thank you. Hello? All right. So yeah, looking at the site plan here, depending on what we would want, you could take this and you could array it across or just stack it next to each other, and you could get, 2 more pickleball courts. But you would probably, it really depends. It gets a little sticky if we start to, if we get rid of the parking, because this is so busy. So like this drive is very efficient. So
yeah,
we would be.
You would want to get rid of parking.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So it's kind of like our options would be keeping this existing infrastructure. We have all this room down here to play with. So we could get 4, 5 might be pushing it, just because we're getting awfully close and we have these setbacks here. So we could double the amount of pickleball. You do. You do.
Yeah.
No, I just had one other question. Pickleball became a thing in the recent past, really. So let's say all the pickleballers decide they're going to change their tune. Could you change the pickleball courts easily to become more basketball? I just want to not have to redo and do over. Is this something that we could modify if we need to do that, 10 years out or something? I like planning out a little bit differently than just looking at what it is here and now.
I don't know the specifics of the game dimensions for tennis. I know that obviously basketball is going to be much different than pickleball, but I believe pickleball and tennis, those are much closer in size as far as, because most pickleball courts are retrofitted tennis courts. So I think that's where we'd be those are the constraints we'd be working under.
So really what's in green is already an investment.
Correct. This already exists. And there has been recent investment made to improve those courts, to resurface them, and new game lines.
Just one other quick question. What we have currently works, as far as I can see, without making changes, without doing anything that would affect the neighborhood that lives around. And we have 2 pickleball courts there. We have a basketball court. The majority of the time they're being used. Right now the parking handles it. I'm thinking if we can do a little bit with the meeting area, no lockers, additional bathrooms. To me, that sounds good. I would think that maybe we should look at the tennis courts here, because those aren't used as much right now. Of course, pickleball's a thing right now. It's not used as much as what's being used on Green Valley. So maybe what we need to do is to have a plan that the village look at, maybe, I don't know, that looks at these courts here, that says, okay, what can we keep as tennis? What can we convert to pickleball if indeed we want more pickleball? Because it sounds to me, pickleball can be converted right back into tennis courts if needed. But I think what we have here, I think is sufficient. without doing anything to the neighborhood around there other than making it nicer, making it better, making it more efficient.
And adding bathrooms.
Adding bathrooms is a good thing, adding some shade is a good thing,
Gotcha.
and making the meeting area just a little bit nicer. No kitchen. We don't want any type of other liability.
Thank you.
I just want to second that. I think if we can come at this looking at it as making minimal changes rather than maximal changes, I think that's probably going to be best accepted by everybody. So,
Thank you.
But make it more modern for the Boy Scouts. They probably, and safer, and bathrooms, and whoever else might be able to use it. If it's such a small, if it's a small space, then there's other people that could use a very small space. Small meeting room, I think, would be a better way to characterize it than a community meeting room. This is a community more meeting room. But yeah, and then, you know, Wi-Fi, stuff like that for them, you know. I'm sure they're advanced.
Right, any other comments? Any other thoughts that have come up? Well, like I said, we'll continue. We'll hang out for a little while longer. Everyone can get up, look at the boards up close. If you have questions, we'll be here. Like I said, we want to gather all this feedback, putting it on these sticky notes. You can write your own note, stick it up there, or let us know. We'll write it down. We'll stick it on there, and we'll gather all this feedback and share it back with the village. So thank you all for your time tonight.